So this is the article in question, is it? The small box deposited with the pawnbroker by Mr. McGildy 2 months ago. And on the night of Mr. Windibank's murder, the only item on the shelves was touched by whoever broke into the shop. Quick, quick! Let's open and see what's inside. Ah. Good gracious! This is no ordinary box, it seems. Wow! Although in truth, I had an inkling that might be the case. It would appear that the box houses a miniature music box movement. Then, is too much to expect? I think it would be reasonable to assume that it is a device for the playback of this disc, my lord. So, here we have the means to play back Mr. McGildy's disc deposited at Windibank's at much at the same time. Not strictly correct, my lord. It was not McGildy's disc. It was the disc of his victim in the omnibus. But why? For heaven's sake. Are we to understand that the brickmaker was trying to sell this music box disc to Mr. McGildy? I believe the answer will become clear if you listen to the music on the disc, my lord. Yes, very well. Let the court now listen to the curious disc at last. Wait, my lord! Good grief! What is the meaning of this, Inspector? The music box and the disc are, well, they're unrelated to the case. No need to spoil the somber atmosphere in the court with some silly bit of music. Objection! This disc may very well have motivated the culprit in this case to commit murder. Clearly, there's every chance that it's fundamentally important to understanding what happened. The prosecution has no objection. But no, that piece of evidence is police property now. You can't... Clearly, Scotland Yard has some vested interest here. But it is policy of this prosecutor to leave no avenues unexplored. And you, Inspector, have no jurisdiction here to prevent that from happening. Gah! No further delays, please. Play the disc. What on earth? That's certainly not what you would call music. No. It's just the same note playing over and over again in irregular sequence. Mr. Graydon? This really is priceless. After all that, music box is broken. Broken? It can't be, can it? Well, obviously. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if the officer sent to fetch it didn't drop it on the way back to the courtroom. Well, with much regret, I feel the court must accept that this music box offers little in the way of clues. Are you ready to move on, counsel? Come on. Yes, alright. It does sound as though it's completely broken, but is it? Could this music emanate from the music box possibly be a new clue? It could. I think I know what it is, actually. I believe they could be relevant, my lord. Good lord! But how can it be? It's an abomination, counsel. Mere noise! I fail to see how it can have any meaning whatsoever. It does sound strange, I agree. But there's one thing bothering me. While Graydon stands there, chortling victoriously, the inspector beside him has a rather telling expression on his face. It sounds as if Gregson recognizes the sound, as if he's familiar with it somehow. And that's making him appear extremely on edge. If that's the stance of the defense, my Nipponese friend, answer me this. Oh! Just what relevance do you propose this woeful chime has on this case? It's defensive belief that the sound emanating from this music box is... It's not supposed to be music. Just because this is a music box, it doesn't necessarily mean the sounds we're hearing are music. Look at that. The smile vanished from Graydon's lips as soon as I said it. I'm on the right lines here. I must be. Hehe, making deductions based on how people react to what you say. You're acting just like Hurley, Runo.
Objection!
The sounds we're hearing aren't necessarily music. Well, now that you've told us what they are not, I'm sure the court would like to hear what they are. Do enlighten us, Mighty Bunny's friend. Surely you have an idea in mind, because if not, it will be the death of your ill-formed argument. Exactly. The music box is clearly broken. Refusing to accept that fact is pure foolishness. They've got me. I don't know what the answer is yet. Bruno? I've just examined the music box very thoroughly. And I'm fairly certain that it's not broken at all. Really? Really? The way it's been made, it can only produce a single note anyway. Thank you, Iris. Alright, well if the music box isn't broken, it must mean that the sounds it's producing have some significance that isn't musical. Ah! Could it be? Is that what these sounds are? Something's just struck me, Runo. I feel like recently, in the past few hours even, I've heard another sound very much like the one this music box makes. Yes, it's a familiar sound. Actually, Iris, I was just thinking exactly the same thing. I'm going to have to press the defense for an answer. If your assertion is that the sound produced by the music box is non-fat music at all, then what the devil is it, counsel? All the evidence we've seen so far, all the testimony we've heard, it's all pointing to one single answer now. The prosecution demands that my learned Nipponi's friend presents proof now. Tangible proof of this latest wild speculation. Alright then. This could be the best chance I'm going to get to fight back in this trial. And if I'm right, it's going to join all the dots together. The evidence that explains the true nature of the sounds in the music box disc is... I think it's this.
Take that!
Today's paper, counsel? The headline is, Pawnbroker perishes in pick purse plunder. Hardly supportive of your cause. No, my lord. I was hoping you'd look a little further down the page. Further down? Mystery Mole. Classified secrets may have been leaked overseas from Ministry of Justice. Yes, this is a very serious matter being investigated at the highest level, I understand. I've heard that international transmissions along supposedly secure lines are somehow being intercepted and leaked to various other countries. And presumably, those transmissions are in the form of wired telegrams? Of course. Juror number 5, your input, please. Stop. Oh, me, sir? Whatever's the matter. You told the court before that you worked at the same communication station as Mr. Graydon, did you not? Yes, that's correct. The particular station where you work deals with government communications and newspaper reports. Oh, yes. We're not your run-of-the-mill communication station at all. Our work is extremely important. Then tell me, is this not a very familiar sound? Hmm? You don't mean to say, is it... That's right, madam. It bears more than a passing resemblance to the sound made by your telegraph machine as you tap it. I believe it's called Morse code. But I don't believe it! Now correct me if I'm wrong, but when it comes to leaking telegrams from government departments, there could be nobody more perfectly placed than a highly skilled communications officer. Are you suggesting that the music box disc contains stolen government secrets in Morse code? Order, order! Please, everyone, order! But this is high treason, Council, deserving of capital punishment. Too much new vocabulary. What is treason? What is capital punishment? The sorts of words I'd half expect you to know. For a sovereign government's confidential information, hostile negotiations would surely pay almost any price. Yes, on that night 2 months ago, that was the very negotiation that was taking place inside the omnibus. But in the end, McGill perished, and the all-important disc lay unclaimed in the pawnbrokery. My word! In which case, whoever stole the information in the first place must surely have been beside himself with worry, because if the disc were to be discovered before it found its way out of the country, it would reveal an act of high treason punishable by death. So the culprit had no choice but to retrieve it, and in order to do that, he would have to gain entry to the pawnbrokery illegally in the middle of the night. Because the article left behind by Mr. McGill would incriminate him too much if it got into the wrong hands. Isn't that right, Mr. Graydon? You think I've been stealing government secrets? Preposterous! Absolutely preposterous! So, in response to the defense's accusation, you claim complete innocence, do you? Well, of course I do! I've had to stand here in silence while that pretentious foreign lawyer has been prattling away.
Objection!
Then by all means, counter the charges, sir. The prosecution demands the witness testifies in response to the accusations brought by the defense. Delighted, I'm sure. The witness is reminded that the crime under scrutiny in this trial is the murder of the pawnbroker, Mr. Windibank. That being a most Oh my god, what the heck is that word? That being a most flagitious offense, for which the law of this land sanctions a capital punishment. But the heinous act of high treason is no less than serious a crime. I urge you to bear that in mind as you testify, Mr. Graydon. So then, let's proceed. You gotta let's have a rabbit in a poke here, Governor. We got things to say. I beg your pardon? Who do you think you are? Name's Nash Skulkin. Occupation is professional baddie. Name's Ringo Skulkin, but we ain't baddies enough to sell out Merverland. That's right. We're what they call the Three Skulkin Brothers. Bad timing, fellas. Very bad timing. A mere communications officer couldn't possibly steal confidential government information. Besides, the sounds produced by that music box aren't even Morse code. It was some low-class brickmaker negotiating with McGill anyway, was it not? I've no relation to the man. Look, all he done is breaking the gaff the other night like what he told us to do. If we'd known there was dodgy government secrets involved, we wouldn't have touched it. Mr. and Mr. Skulkin? One miss'll do, Governor. What's up? Do I take it that you now admit to the crime? That on the night in question, you did indeed gain entry to the premises illegally? I thought we've already established this. And moreover, you did so as a party of 3 in collaboration with Mr. Graydon here. We did, Gov, we did. Quieten down, please. What say you to that, Mr. Graydon? I have no idea what these 2 ruffians are referring to. You little rotter, getting us mixed up in all this monkey business. You never said nothing about no government secrets. You're supposed to be a straight-up job. What about the geezer whose shop it was, eh? Poor bloke didn't have to die, did he? Ah. Nice to know who your friends are. Whatever these men say, I deny the accusations. Indeed. Well, I certainly wasn't expecting this little music box to become so significant in the proceedings. However, as it has, I will admit to the court record as evidence. Today's music box only appears to be able to play a single tone, which was deposited in Windibanks 2 days before the black overcoat. So is this newspaper headline accurate? Government communications are being intercepted? How could I possibly know? What do you mean by that? Any important government communications are handled by high-level officers, by specialists. General members of staff at the station where I work would never be entrusted with sensitive information. Oh no? Stop! Must say something. Stop. Let me guess. Juror number 5. We regular communication staff officers aren't as lowly as you're being led to believe. A team of us are responsible for setting up and testing the telegraphs used by the ministry. And Mr. Graydon is the team leader. That's fascinating. Graydon is a highly skilled operator. Stop. Currently in the presence of Vital. Stop. So you had access to the equipment used for these confidential communications, Mr. Graydon. Well, what of it? Transmissions are always made behind closed doors, so they can't be heard. And in any case, all messages are sent encrypted. Normal employees couldn't possibly understand them. Oh no, stop. Must say something, stop. Mr. Graydon regularly attends meetings with the ministry technicians and the ministry communications team. He assists them in ensuring that there are no errors in important international communications. And he's received top prize at Cipher Cracking Convention 5 years in a row now. That's fascinating. Graydon's high skill operator, stop. Currently presence of idol, stop. Well, your idol would appreciate it if you'd keep your mouth shut. She should really pick her idols more carefully. I tell you, this lawyer's accusations are completely unfounded. Hold it! They're not? To anyone with a brain, that would be blatantly apparent on listening to that music box even for a few seconds. Of course, of course. Surely it can't be that my learned friend is unfamiliar with Morse code. Ouch. He looks genuinely shocked at my ignorance. Ha ha ha! I would be more than happy to demonstrate the basics for you, sir. A lesson? Here in court? Morse code is a continuous series of 2 distinct tones. Tones, you say? Yes, a short dot and a long dash. By combining those in different ways, you can construct letters. I see. For example, this is A, and this is B. But when you listen to the sound produced by this music box, you only hear one tone, don't you? But it sounds so similar. The rhythm of it is the same in everything. But there's no discernible meaning to this apparently random sequence of sounds. So your assertion is fundamentally flawed. That is not Morse code. No! Ha 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 ha. Really, you shouldn't be so surprised. What did I tell you? That music box is nothing but a worthless piece of scrap. Perhaps you might consider studying your subject matter before casting aspirations in the future. Ugh, stop. Nothing to say but stop. Oh, it's so frustrating, isn't it? Iris? I mean, if the government's secrets were somehow being leaked using the music box, so many other things would slot into place so nicely. Could there still be something I haven't considered? Would it really be impossible to use these music bots somehow to play back Morse code? There's still every possibility that this music box is instrumental in leaking of government secrets. That's the belief of the defense, at least.
Objection!
Does it please you in some way, my Nipponi's friend? Repeat the same line of argument ad infinitum. It's already been established that to be Morse code, 2 tones are required, dots and dashes. Yes, I'm well aware of that. Then what? Well, it would appear the defense has a hypothesis put forward. You had better present your idea at once, counsel. How do you propose this music box, which appears to produce only a single tone, could have been used to cipher messages into Morse code? See how the 4 McGilded disc is in the music box the man deposited Windibanks? It couldn't be a more perfect fit. So there's no question that this was designed to be played in this music box. Yet despite that, sounds have been produced neither musical nor they appear to have any meaning. It just doesn't make any sense. I wonder, perhaps there's more to this music box than meets the eye. Maybe I haven't discovered all its secrets yet. Oh! What is it, Runo? I've just noticed something about this music box. Looks like there's a bottom of it opens up as well. Ah! You're right! Well, come on then, what are you waiting for? Let's open it! Alright then, here goes. Look at that! There's another movement on the other underside. So, does that mean you could set another disc to play back on this side? Yes, I think so, and it looks like these 2 movements are linked together. They're linked? So if you had 2 discs, they would both play back at the same time.
Got it!
There we go. Good gracious! What am I looking at here? Another movement on the other side of the music box? What? It appears, my lord, that the 2 movements are linked together. In other words, you can put 2 discs in this music box, and the sounds of both will play back at the same time. Good heavens! As the court has heard, Morse code comprised of 2 tones, a short dot and a long dash. With a second disc in place, this music box could be used to generate Morse code and convey a message. This is beyond a joke. I'm sorry? This poor excuse for a lawyer has absolutely no evidence to support his claims. Though, of course, if my learned friend were able to present the court with a second disc, that would be another matter. Well, I can't at the moment. And may I remind the court that, as the witness has pointed out, he was not the one in the omnibus with McGilded 2 months ago, striking a deal over the disc or discs. Indeed, that was Mr. Mason, the brickmaker. Exactly! I had nothing whatsoever to do with it! Though it has holes, I must admit the argument presented by the defense has much promise. I believe the cross-examination should continue. The link between Gray and the victim of the omnibus case must be there somewhere, but I haven't found it yet. Oh dear, looks like you need to give your argument more strength, Runo. You will reiterate your testimony if you please, Mr. Graydon. If I must, though I maintain exactly what I did at the start of this pointless cross-examination.
Hold it!
So 2 months ago in the omnibus, McGilded killed the brickmaker and stole the disc. Mr. Mason was a single man with almost nothing to his name. It seems he lived in artisan quarters some years ago, but people there remember little about him. That doesn't make much sense though, does it? How would a humble brickmaker come to acquire secret government information? How indeed. There must have been somebody else involved behind the scenes in all this. Somebody who acquired the disc and gave it to Mr. Mason. Or to take it to the meeting with McGilded and negotiate a deal. Dear me. You may have it in for me, sir, but I assure you, I have far more class than that. An old brickmaker from an artisan quarter, and this well-to-do communications officer. If only I could find some evidence to link the two of them together. If you have nothing more to add to that note, let us return the witness testimony.
Hold it!
Like Mr. Graydon told you to do, you mean? That's it, yeah. Who else, eh? Silly me thought he was just popping over from NAFTA after all them years, but the rotor had a dodgy job for us. Hey, Ash? Let me stop you there, Mr. Skulkin. After all them years, you say? Do you mean to tell me that Mr. Graydon is an acquaintance of yours? We're the sociable kind of baddies, you know? Sure, let's say Graydon's... Oh.
Excuse me.
Is something wrong, Mr. Skulkin? Eh? No, the other Mr. Skulkin. What, who, me? When your brother was testifying just now, he said something that seemed to cause you to react. Oh, I was just remembering the old days, that's all. We used to have right old laugh together way back when. Together with Mr. Graydon, you mean? Yeah, with Ash, I mean. You look at him now in his fancy whistle and flute and you wouldn't add him in either. But when we was younger, he was from a poor part of town, just like us. Is that so? But he was always a leery one. He had the brains, he had the savvy. He always coming up with smart ideas like what would never have gone through our heads. God blimey, ain't that the truth? Remember Milverton Skulkin's milk run? That was a cook, eh? Save until after the trial. Your reminiscing has no place in this courtroom. And neither does your fruit. Oi! The geezer asked us a question, didn't he? And he was answering. Yeah, we ain't done nothing wrong. Nevertheless, the court is not prepared to accompany you on your trip down memory lane. Counsel, can we turn our attention back to the testimony, please? I don't know. Could that sentimental story be relevant somehow? Oh, I definitely want to add a testimony. My lord. Yes, counsel? The brother's last sentimental statement could hold vital information relating to this case. Very well, counsel. I'll permit the brothers to supplement their testimony with that detail. Briefly, I hasten to add. Say no more. A skulkin's never skulkin'.
Hold it!
I'm sure I'm going to regret asking, but what exactly was that? Some kind of business? Just a little scheme we had back when we was youngsters. Bit of fun, really. Delivering fresh milk to the locals. That's what it was all about. That sounds alarmingly legitimate. There must be a catch. I suppose since we're here, I should ask them to elaborate. But on what? The business name. So this business was just a bit of fun, you say? And it was just yourselves and Mr. Graydon involved? Yeah, that's it. Milverton and Skulkin's milk run, was it? Yeah, that's it. And where did the Milverton part come from? Oh, right. Thought a clever cloaks like you'd have worked that one out. That it's... Enough of this. How much longer are we expected to listen to this drivel? I don't... Let me guess, you don't accept anything these two witnesses are saying? Tell me, why is it that it was only at the mention of the name Milverton that you decided to interject? Because well... It wasn't the Appius of Ohms that one came from. Yeah, his old man was struggling for money so much, his wife walked out on him. She took the name Graydon then, see? But that shall always be Milverton to us. Milverton. So that used to be your surname, did it? Of course not. This is all bunkum. I've been a Graydon since I was born. Do you really think you can rely on the testimony of these two thieves? You're a communications officer attached to the civil service. As such, your personal details will have been thoroughly checked at the time of your appointment. It would be a very simple matter indeed to subpoena those records, Mr. Graydon. Ah! Well, it would appear that Mr. Skulkin's testimony has been reliable, for once. You were born Ashley Milverton, then. Is that correct? Very well, yes. So Ashley Graydon was once Ashley Milverton. That information could change things. It could turn out to be extremely important. All of a sudden, we seem to be up to our necks in a serious matter of national security. Although, all this talk about interception of secret government messages is still just conjecture at this stage. It would explain a number of things, though, wouldn't it? Negotiation Ginny overheard the omnibus 2 months ago, a break-in at Windibank's? But the trouble is, it wasn't Mr. Graydon in the omnibus and Mr. McGilded. No, that was Mr. Mason, the brickmaker, who was so horribly murdered. Only there was some link between the two men somehow. I know. Mr. Graydon's testimony seems to be as watertight as ever. I wonder if the key to making this headway is with a cross-examination here. Could it be those two brothers?
Objection!
There we go. Knew this was gonna come up. Mr. Ashley Milverton. Tell me, why did you try to hide your former name from the court? Because I haven't gone by that name for years. It means nothing to me. No, I don't think that's the real explanation at all. The truth is, you had a reason to hide that name. Explain yourself, please, counsel. I have here the notes from the omnibus case, my lord. And as we all know, the victim, the man who we now understand to have been negotiating with McGilded. Yes, Mr. Mason, the brickmaker. That's right, only Mason wasn't his surname at all. It was his given name. His full name was Mason Milverton. Milverton? Do you mean to say, Saints alive? Mr. Ashley Milverton, is it not the case that the brickmaker, Mr. Mason Milverton, was your father? I don't... As I believe I mentioned earlier, your family history will have been thoroughly checked when you joined the Civil Service. And it really would take no time at all for the court to subpoena those records. The truth is that you have been illegally acquiring highly confidential government information and selling it on to the McGilded in collaboration with your father. Ah! The new facts and evidence unveiled by the cross-examination of this witness all come together to reveal the truth. The truth, you say? That you collaborated with your father, Mr. Mason Milverton, in illegal dealings with Magnus McGilded. By dint of this music box, you mean, counsel? Yes, stealing information being sent in secret government communications and selling it on to McGilded. Mr. Graydon concocted this elaborate scheme of using 2 music box discs to encode the information, as presumably a safety measure against the information falling into the wrong hands. And a very effective one. I should have given the scheme any credence whatsoever. But the deal with McGilded went sour, and the brickmaker met his end. Yes, but before he was arrested, McGilded managed to temporarily dispose of the stolen disc at the pawnbroker. Then, having learned of the situation, you appeared at Windibank 2 days ago, in an attempt to recover the 2 articles McGilded had placed in pawn there. but that attempt failed. One of the discs was seized by the police, and the other you never found. So that same night, you enlisted the help of the Skulkin brothers and broke into the pawnbrokery. This time, determined to recover the second disc. Are you suggesting that the second disc was inside the music box? Eh? We never knew enough about that. On the night that Mr. Windibank was killed, the intruder to the pawnbrokery touched one item and one item alone, the music box. That's rather ingeniously demonstrated using the two prints from the security camera, indeed. So, the question that naturally begs answering is this: why was only that one article disturbed? The answer is obvious, because it contained the second disc, which the intruder was desperate to retrieve. Since, if it were to fall into the hands of the police, it would be proof of high treason. Well, Mr. Graydon, do you deny that all of this actually began on that fateful night 2 months ago? I refuse to accept any of this nonsense. Sir, there appears to be blood seeping through the sleeve of your jacket. What? Ah! 2 nights ago, we know that 3 shots were fired at the scene of the crime in Windibank's pawnbrokery. One took the life of a pawnbroker himself. One struck the pouch around Mr. Sholm's waist. And the final bullet struck the calendar on the wall of the shop, having first pierced the arm of one of the intruders. Mr. Graydon, that wound on your arm that you seem to be trying to hide, it's a bullet wound, isn't it? He's got you now, me old China. Time to call it quits and croak, I reckon. Don't acknowledge my presence there under any circumstances whatsoever. Those are my terms, remember? And I paid you handsomely to comply. Clearly I was a fool to think I could trust some common back slum thieves. Oh, he's not even denying it anymore. Fine, I admit it. I was there in Windibanks that night. I paid this pair 10 guineas to accompany me. And as you've noticed, I sustained an injury in the course of my adventures. But that is all. I admit to nothing more. Stealing government secrets? Negotiating with Mr. McGilded? As God is my witness, I'm sure I recall nothing of the sort. He's not going to go down without a fight. Not until I can show hard evidence, I suppose. Nevertheless, the defense has now established a crucial fact. Which is? Well, we know that one bullet was fired from each of the 2 firearms we have in evidence. The bullet from the Skulkin brothers' gun hit the pouch around Mr. Sholm's waist. And the bullet from Mr. Windibank's gun clearly must have been the one that caught Mr. Graydon on the arm. Indeed, it must. We can rule out the possibility that the man shot himself. And that leads us to only one conclusion. Mr. Windibank was shot by a 3rd gun, which can only have been fired by the 3rd intruder. Goodness! That's right, Mr. Graydon. The only person who could possibly have shot Mr. Windibank that night is you!
Hold it!
You little upstart. You made a great mistake when you summoned me here. What? What's that supposed to mean? Yes, as you rightly say, I was there at the pawnbroker's. I did my best to hide the fact, naturally. I had no intention of ruining the distinguished career I had built for myself at the communications station. But did the thought never cross your mind? Did you never consider the possibility? What? What do you mean? What thought? What possibility? The possibility that if I was there at the scene, I may have witnessed the crucial moment? You see, this makes me a key witness in this case, and I have my hands firmly around the neck of your client. What? Are you suggesting... I saw it all. I saw the very moment that pickpocket girl pointed the gun at the poor defenseless pawnbroker and shot him. You... What? Order, order, order! Well, it would seem we are finally entering the last act of this theatrical trial. Mr. Graydon. Yes? I trust you are fully aware of the implications here. If it is shown that your claim is false, you will have incriminated yourself as the killer. Oh, I understand fully. Then I must ask you to give your formal testimony once more. You will explain to the court precisely what you saw at the moment the defendant allegedly shot the victim. Nothing would give me greater pleasure. While these ruffians were jostling with the broker, I was still near the entrance to the shop. When the Windibank threw Nash over the counter, I felt a sharp pain in my arm. I pursued the man, but he shut himself in the storeroom. I could see him through the peephole in the door, though. The accused, in a black coat, shot the man in the back as he was trying to flee to safety. I saw the blood spatter all over that wretched girl. Then she tossed the gun out of the peephole, so I picked it up and made my escape. Good gracious, this is quite extraordinary testimony. You claim, sir, under oath, to have clearly seen the defendant pulling the trigger. Order, order, order! It wasn't my intention to testify in this way. But neither is it my intention to be found guilty of a murder I didn't commit. So you see, my hand has been forced. I tell the truth now as an act of self-preservation. The truth? Until now, the prosecution was completely unaware of these details. Yes, well, sorry about that. Having shot me in the arm, the pawnbroker was then shot in the back by the accused. As I said, she was showered in his blood. You say the blood spattered over the accused's coat? Are you sure on that point? Oh yes, quite sure. All over the black overcoat that pickpocket girl was wearing at the time. Really? If her coat could somehow be shown to harbor vestiges of blood, that would be conclusive evidence here. Such an investigation is entirely possible, my lord. What? Only very recently, a German scientist developed a technique to identify human blood. So here's to true science, not some amateurish detective's dubious foray into the world of chemistry. There's nothing dubious about Hurley's work. His ideas are all sound. Ideas are no use to us here. In science, as in law, theories must be proven before they stand. In Germany, the technique has already been employed in the courtroom as the basis of evidence. Scotland Yard has a small quantity of the chemical reagent used. With your lordship's permission, we could shatter all vestiges of doubt within minutes. This doesn't look good, Bruno. Why not? Well, we know, don't we, that there's blood all over the front of Jeannie's coat. If they test it with their chemicals, Oh, help! You're right! I was forgetting what happened yesterday.
Don't move, Ginny. I'm going to shoot.
But that's not Mr. Windibake's blood. That stains from 2 months ago. That's Mr. Mason's blood. For when he was stabbed by McGilded, who was wearing the coat at the time. My lord, the defense objects to the test proposed by the prosecution. Overruled. Lord Van Zeeks, make it so at once. With pleasure, my lord. And while we await the results, the defense may proceed with the cross-examination. Once they find that blood on the overcoat, Gina will be... Counsel! Yes, my lord. Your cross-examination. Of course, my lord. This cross-examination doesn't go well. If I don't manage to uncover some decisive evidence or a really compelling clue now, I have a very bad feeling about the outcome of this trial. Mr. Windibake emerged from the storeroom, I believe. Ringo and Nash were scouring the counter when he suddenly appeared and flew at them. He already had the revolver in his hand. Fortunately, I wasn't too close. I've never been so scared in all my life. Yeah, we're just your regular mid-mannered burglars, that's all. We don't like violence. Says the pair who carry a gun. What do you mean when you say you were near the entrance to the shop? I was in the doorway, running my eyes over the shelves of forfeited items. Looking for the music box, of course. The broker went for Nash in the first place. Then Ringo joined in, making it 2 against 1, so I assumed they could handle the situation. But I was wrong. I was trying to help me little bruv. The old geezer chucked me over the bloomin' counter. So I pulled me gun on the old fella, and that soon made him scupper. A pair of you setting upon the poor defenseless pawnbroker together, shame on you! Sorry, Gov.
Hold it!
You mean that's the moment you were shot? Yes, though I didn't immediately realize what had happened, of course. Things crashed on the floor from the counter as the 3 men were brawling. It was at exactly that moment that it happened, so I didn't hear the gunshot. And the bullet went on to strike the calendar in the wall behind you. So it would appear. When I looked at my arm, I saw it was bleeding badly, so I wrapped my handkerchief around it. Seeing as I couldn't explain what had happened to a doctor, I had no choice but to wait for it to heal. I didn't imagine it would still be bleeding 2 days later. Did Mr. Windibake intend to shoot you, do you think? Well now, I don't imagine he even noticed I was there, to be honest. Perhaps the gun went off accidentally. Anyway, it didn't quite strike home. When I pulled my gun on him, he tried to shove me out of the way. And then he scuppered through the door out back. At which point, what did you do?
Hold it!
You mean you chased after him? I don't recall the reason why, but I ran after him to the back of the shop. And what about this peephole in the door you mentioned? Well, unsurprisingly, the storeroom door is a solid job, made of stout wood. But there's a small opening about head height that lets you see what's in there from the outside. Actually, I should know that, shouldn't I? I looked through it myself that night. And what about your burgling brothers? Did you see what went through this peephole as well? Not likely, Gov. Didn't see enough of the sort, Gov. I doubt these 2 buffoons were even aware of the peephole's existence. So Skulkin brothers were there, but they didn't see the killing of Mr. Windibake take place. Inside the storeroom, I could see the broker and that young girl standing there. The defendant? Yes, though neither of them noticed I was looking. The girl raised her gun and pointed it straight at the man. And then, what did you see next?
Hold it!
Yes, when the crime was discovered, the defendant was found with a gun in her hand. But that was Mr. Windibake's gun, for which only a single bullet had been fired. And as we've already established, Mr. Graydon, that bullet was fired at you. Ah, but no. It wasn't the broker's gun that pickpocket girl had when I saw her. Yes, the bullet from Windibake's gun grazed my arm. And yes, the Skulkin's gun grounded the detective. But this was another gun entirely. A third gun. The broker's gun was not the murder weapon, so clearly there had to be a third firearm involved. In other words, the accused must have had her own gun with her at that time.
Objection!
But no other gun was found at the scene. Calm yourself, counsel. Sorry? You must consider the events in order. At first I saw the broker and the girl glaring at each other, but then all of a sudden, the broker turned to run. And it was at that moment that the little gutter rat shot him in the back. A chilling image, I must say. That is no kind of counter-argument. How does that disprove my counter-argument? That does not, that's nothing. That is such that does not disprove my counter-argument.
Hold it!
All over her? Yes. Through the peephole I saw it clearly. Of course, the stains are invisible now, with the coat being such a dark color. But I assure you, that garment is sullied with the victim's blood. Well, it is sullied with blood, that's for sure. But it's not Mr. Windibake's blood, is it? No, that's right. It's Mr. Mason Milverton's blood from when McGilded stabbed him 2 months ago. It's so annoying. If they'd only accept Hurley's chemical analysis, we could prove that. But they won't, so unfortunately, we can't use it as evidence to support our case. Bother.
Hold it!
Did I hear correctly? She threw the gun out of the room? That's right. As the broker fell to the floor, she started walking over. Over where exactly? In the direction of the storeroom door, to where I was watching. Of course, I quickly retreated, and then the girl dropped the gun through the peephole into the floor on my side of the door. But why on earth did she do such a thing? I couldn't tell you. Perhaps she was hoping to distance herself from the murder weapon? Without thinking, I went and picked it up. Suppose I was worried about just leaving it there in case any more tragedies took place. So you have the gun! So it was you, in fact, who took the third gun from the scene of the crime? Yes, it was yours truly. I left the clear up to my lackeys and left. Clear up? We made a bit of a mess around the counter, so Mr. Whistle and Flute here told us to tidy up. He thinks I'll bloomin' mum sometimes. Well, it was paying you enough, by God. Ugh. Tell me, Mr. Graydon, when you left the pawnbrokery that night, was it by any chance with the second disc in your jacket pocket? You're like a bull. Oh. Whoa, hey!
Excuse me!
Gentlemen! Ha! 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 Something wrong, Sunshine? The hell do you mean something's wrong? That should be my line. You do realize you were just violently shaking Mr. Skulkin. Blimey, Misty's a bit of a oogling, ain't he? What was going on just now? You saw him? He grabbed me whistle. What the blazer, he said. Didn't you mention the third gun when we got you down the station? And why didn't you? 'Cause we know enough about it. The flaming people on the door. Sorry about that. I can be prone to losing my rag sometimes. Not hurt, are you? God blimey. See the way he's looking at me? I'm telling ya, this deed give me the willies. That was strange. The inspector doesn't normally get quite as worked up as that. He wouldn't normally grab someone. No, that wasn't like Gregsy at all. He's normally all sweetness and light, no matter what I say to him. Well, you're an exception. Yes, well, I think you might be a special case, Iris. Again, this is why I seldom give commentary to these videos, because everything I say, he just says it again. Like, what am I supposed to do? What do I add to this stupid video series? Well, anyway, that was definitely out of character. My lord! Requesting your lordship permission to interrupt the cross-examination. Explain yourself, officer. I resulted the test that was ordered earlier, my lord. Ah, the blood on the accused overcoat. Thank you, officer. Very well. Cross-examination is hereby temporarily suspended. I presume you have no objection, counsel? No, my lord. Well, there you have it. The report, please, Inspector. Yes, sir. Traces of human blood were found on the overcoat of the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade. From the extent of the stains, it would appear that they were the result of splattering following a gunshot wound. Well, that's... End of report. Goodness me! See? What'd I tell you?
Objection!
No! The blood on that coat is not Mr. Windibank's. What on earth made you say that, counsel? The coat originally belonged to Madness McGilded. Just before his coat was deposited at Windibank's, Mr. McGill had fatally stabbed Mr. Mason Milverton. So the blood on the overcoat is the blood of the brickmaker from the omnibus case.
Objection!
Well, the dead cannot speak. Isn't that right, my Nipponi's friend? Not yet. Sorry. 2 months ago, in this very courtroom, did you not argue fervently for McGilded's innocence? And yet, now that the man is dead, you brand him as a murderer? Your conduct shatters any shred of respect you may have earned for yourself in this country. Ah, but that was... I call it a bully disgrace. Treachery, that's what it is. How to determine whether the blood in that coat is 2 months old or not? Yeah, a stereoscope couldn't help the answer to that problem pop out. Can't be done. But... We use Mr. Sholmes' specially formulated chemicals. Mr. Sholmes is a detective, not a chemist. Would you put such faith in a chemical formula devised by me, for example, when I'm a communications officer? I held out Piroshki to a starving boy, and he ran away crying. Herlock Sholmes is barely more than a figment of the public's imagination. His name carries no weight in this courtroom. No weight at all. How could you say that? Victory is sweet indeed. This proves that my testimony is the whole truth from start to finish. How do you arrive at such a conclusion, sir? As the witness said, the accused coat was splattered with the blood of the victim. The only way Mr. Graydon could possibly have known that fact is if he saw it happen. In other words, his testimony is solid and the conclusion is singular. It was the accused who shot the victim in this case. That is the whole truth. Ah! My lord! Been a long battle, this one. This old warhorse has something to say now, if you please. Mr. Foreman? As of this moment, sir, the squadron has reached its final decision. Ready, men? All for one now. Sir!
Guilty.
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 I seriously have to do this again? Well, it would appear the ladies and gentlemen of the jury have reached a unanimous verdict. The defense has consistently failed to unpick this witness's testimony. Here's to any attempt you may make at unpicking the juror's decisions being equally successful. I don't believe it. After I've come so far. How is it all unraveling on me so fast? How very distressing. To be held in such low esteem. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Naruhodo? Officer? You've delivered the report now. That'll be all, thank you. It occurs to me with some regularity, Mr. Naruhodo, that scientific truths are determined not by science, but by none other than the human mind. I know that voice. Am I going mad? Ah!